In this video, I'm going to run through the process of bringing in the depreciation import file into a individual client in Lacerte. Should already have the setup process done. We'll start the import by going to Import and Data Conductor. Data Conductor window opens up. We want to click on the Import button in the top left. The Import Wizard will open, and in the first step we want to select Import Other Accounting Package Data and click Next. We want to make sure to select the custom profile that we created during the setup process. If for whatever reason you don't see that, you may need to expand the tree until you see the profile number that you created. Click on that to highlight it and click Next. Lacerte's then going to ask you for a depreciation import file. So I'm going to select one for an individual. This farm number must match the client number in Lacerte. You do have the option of importing multiple depreciation import files at once if you'd like. If you want to do that, just click on the Browse button and you can select those files. So I'm going to click Finish here. Lacerte wants us to confirm that it's okay to truncate the name to 8 characters. You have to say yes at this point. And a window that says it's imported successfully, so click OK. Now, the data in the import file is in the data conductor. It has not been sent over to Lacerte at this point. So to do that, we need to click on the client that we just imported and then click on Transfer. Before I do that, I do want to mention that as you import several files, Lacerte always highlights the first client in the list. So you want to make sure that you do click on the client that you're interested in importing before you click on the Transfer button. So I'm going to click on that now. Tells me it's complete, so I'll click on OK and ask if I'd like to close the data conductor. Say yes. Now you saw that window pop up here with a blue bar. Since that flashed up and disappeared, it means that the import was successful. If there's errors in the import, then you'll have another window that pops up at this point. So let's look at what we've imported. Go to the detail for this client. We've imported information for screen 17 dispositions, screen 22 depreciation, and screen 23 direct input. Let's look at dispositions first. So in this case, we had 2 outright sales. We sold 20 cows, 20 raised cows, 1 purchased bull, and then we traded a case 190 in on another piece of equipment, and I'll show you that other piece here in a minute. If we look at the raised cows that were sold, the import file automatically puts in a -1/1 of 2001 date as the purchase date, so that Lacerte will display various on the 4797. It will also, for raised cows, automatically check Form 4797 Part 1 so that it does display in Part 1. It puts in a -1 for depreciation allowed, so the Lacerte knows that it's so Lacerte can do all the calculations correctly. For the 190 that was traded off, we've got our normal disposal information in, but we also have included the optional data to create the 8824. So we've got the date the property was identified, date it was received, fair market value of like kind, the cash given, a description of the replacement property, and so on. The next area or next screen that we import data in is the depreciation tab. That just includes our current year purchases. So in this case, we bought a pickup and a tractor. That is the replacement for the 190 that was traded off that showed up on our disposals. If you do not select to include the 8824 data, then that 190 would not show up in dispositions. Only the new asset would show up. Any current year depreciation on the asset that was given up will be included with depreciation on other assets here on direct input. So if we go back here to the current year purchases, we've told Lacerte the description of the property. We've included the form. We always include the first form or first activity for Schedule F. We've included a category. These categories are going to be based on whether it's raised breeding livestock, motorized, machinery and equipment, buildings, and land. Since we have specified every calculation, basically we've taken out the ability of Lacerte to calculate any depreciation. We've told Lacerte exactly what we want in every scenario or in every input box. We've told it the original cost, which is going to include any carryover depreciation or carryover basis on assets that were traded, the 179 amount that we've selected, method, life, so on, convention. But we also tell it current year depreciation in the 2051 is the current year depreciation, and we tell it the bonus depreciation that's calculated. So if I want to modify, let's say I want to increase the 179 amount, and I want to do that in Lacerte to see what it looks like, then I need to remove or change the 179 amount here. Let's say I want to go to 20,000. If I don't change the bonus depreciation calculation or the current year depreciation calculation, the amount of depreciation taken on this asset is going to be incorrect. So if I change 179, I also need to change bonus, and I can just take that out and let Lacerte calculate it, and I need to do the same for current depreciation. We have selected or have told Lacerte that we are electing to take bonus. Between that indication here in that input box and the 179 amount and the cost basis, Lacerte should be able to calculate remaining amounts. The final piece that we bring in for an individual is going to be current year depreciation on prior year purchases. So any assets that were bought, in this case in 2013 and earlier, the current year depreciation amount is lumped in this input box. One other thing to note on listed property, Lacerte has a little bit of an issue because when we send the business percentage to Lacerte, we send it as a percent, and that's the way Lacerte asks you to enter it. But during the import process, it always rounds that number. So if your business percent is less than 50%, then this number will show up as a 0. If it's more than 50%, it's going to round it up to 1. So you'll always have to change this to the actual business percent. Let's look at the forms really quick. start with 4562. So we had elected 179 on both the pickup truck and the tractor that were purchased. We had bonus depreciation on the tractor. And we had about 13,000 of current year depreciation on prior year purchases. And then we've brought in the current year depreciation on current year purchases. 4797, our raised cows show up in part 1. On page 2, we've got our purchase bull. And there is since it was sold for more than the original cost, we do have a little bit of capital gain showing up here. We had a sale price of $3,000. We had expenses of the sale of $89, so we had ended up with $11 of capital gain. And then we can look at the depreciation schedule for 14, and it shows a summary of everything that happened in the current year.